Okay, it's time to talk about injury and aging, the effects on tissue. So this is our last topic in our tissues unit. Here are standards and objectives. Pause, peruse if you wish. Okay, injuries. Affects several tissue types simultaneously. Remember, tissues make up organs, so it's unlikely that an injury would affect only epithelial tissue unless it's truly just on the surface of your skin. If it goes any deeper and there's bleeding, you've affected connective tissue as well. Okay, so rarely is it going to affect a single tissue type. Nervous tissue is going to be affected. You're going to feel pain. Okay, connective tissue, you're going to have bleeding. Okay, so there's going to be more than one tissue type involved. Tissues have to coordinate a response to restore homeostasis. So getting an injury is a disruption to homeostasis, and your body has to fix it. Okay, what are the two processes that are involved in healing wounded tissue? Well, we have inflammation and regeneration. Now, to be honest, these are kind of interconnected and happening at the same time, but we'll focus on them individually. So inflammation. Inflammation results if you have an injury, an infection, an impact, an abrasion, chemical irritation, extreme temperatures, hot or cold. And there are four main signs of and symptoms of inflammation: swelling, warmth, redness, and pain. And the difference between a sign and a symptom, okay, is whether or not it's objective or subjective. Okay, so a symptom is subjective, like you feel pain. A sign would be that it's red. So that is objective. We can literally see it or measure it. What is the inflammatory response? We talked about this a little bit earlier with mast cells. So mast cells are present in connective tissue, and they release histamine and heparin. So histamine is the one we're most familiar with, but it dilates local blood vessels. It's going to thin the blood supply there, and it makes the blood vessels more permeable as they're dilated. So it's going to increase the delivery of nutrients, oxygen, white blood cells, platelets, proteins. And the increased blood flow is what helps to create that redness and warmth. The increased diffusion creates that swelling. And then the sensory nerve endings get stimulated by those chemicals, which creates the pain. So there's a reason for those four signs and symptoms. The inflammatory stimulus is usually eliminated in hours to days, depending on the injury, because of this coordinated response. So because so much is happening to allow it to heal more quickly, it's usually short-lived. Now, what are the four primary signs of inflammation? Do you remember? Redness, swelling, warmth, and pain. The fifth one is loss of function. So if it does not resolve itself in a quick enough time period, you may lose function. Now, regeneration. So the damaged tissues are replaced or repaired. So it restores homeostasis. So the inflammation is about allowing regeneration to happen. Regeneration is actually what restores homeostasis or normal tissue function. So what happens? There's scar tissue or fibrous tissue that's formed. So fibroblasts help with that. Over time, the scar tissue is usually remodeled and becomes less apparent. So I have a scar on my chin. I don't know if you could see it. My dog literally jumped into my arms and scraped me. The scar is not completely gone, but has faded a lot over the years. So the appearance becomes more normal. Okay, let's talk about regeneration in tissue types. So regeneration is not the same in all tissue types. What tissues do regenerate well? Well, epithelial, connective, well, except for cartilage, and smooth muscle, because cartilage does not have a blood supply. All remaining connective tissue does. What tissues regenerate poorly, if at all? Skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, also cartilage, and then neural tissue. Now, fibrosis is the permanent replacement of normal tissue, and it affects the function. So it can occur in response to injury, disease, and aging. So for example, if you have skeletal muscle that was injured and instead of being repaired, it was replaced with fibrosis, then that area does not function as muscle tissue anymore, which creates problems. Bigger problems if that's in your heart, okay? So what is fibrosis? When normal tissue does not regenerate, it doesn't get repaired, the tissue is permanently replaced with scar tissue or collagen fibers, and then this affects function. Why is fibrosis a problem? Because the tissue does not function normally. It doesn't do its job. The fibrosis does not behave like a skeletal muscle, it does not behave like cardiac muscle. It doesn't do its job. What tissues heal and regenerate well? Epithelial, connective, except for cartilage, and smooth muscle. What about aging? So what changes as we age? Well, a lot of things actually. Repair slows down. We bruise easier as we age. The epithelia gets thinner. Cardiac muscle is not replaced, so this can result in cardiovascular disease as the years go on. Neurons are not replaced, so this can result in the deterioration of mental function as the years go on. Connective tissue gets more fragile, so bones get brittle and can break easier. There's joint pain. What is one way tissues change with aging? We just talked about a whole lot of them. Okay, so repair slows down, bruising easier, thinning epithelial, cardiovascular disease because cardiac muscle is not replaced, mental function deterioration because neurons aren't replaced, more broken bones and more joint pain because connective tissue gets more fragile. And there you have it. It's kind of a broad sweeping overview, but the effects of injury and aging on tissues. So you know it. I hope you learned something new today.